I'm Linda Ligon, and I'm here at SOAR in Lake Lawn, Wisconsin. And I'm with Jim Bateman from Yarn Barn, and I'm spinning on a very special wheel that Yarn Barn brought to SOAR. And I'm going to let Jim talk about that wheel a little bit.
All right, Jim Bateman, Yarn Barn of Kansas. I'm here. Susan is here, my wife. She's the one who started the store and actually knows what we do. This wheel is the last wheel that Rick Reeves made. He started the wheel years before this wheel was finished, but he never had time to finish it. And parts would end up on his bench and in the back of his bench. And I got a phone call from Rick one day. He knew we happened to be driving across Iowa, at least, and said, "You might stop by. I've got something you want." And did as he suggested, stopped by, and we got this wheel. Last one he made. It is black walnut and beautifully made. And Marge, of course, finished it. That was a pair. You didn't get one without the other. And we have a letter from Rick that he wrote to go with this wheel. If I'll read it now, if that's okay. It says, "This walnut wheel, number 6000, was first started in 1988. It has a 30-inch base, but a 24-inch wheel. It was assembled by Rick on the last day of production in June of 2001. It was the last walnut wheel made by Rick and Marge Reeves, and Rick's signature is on the card." It's a gem.
It's pretty special, but talk about why Rick and Marge were pretty special, because it wasn't just that they produced splendid wheels. I mean, I'm really enjoying spinning on this, but what was it about them that was so magic and wonderful?
They were both, to my taste, loyal Midwesterners.
That's putting it well. Well, loyal Midwesterners in that they lived for quite a while and worked for quite a while in the Amanaquah colony.
That's where their shop was. It was in Marengo. It was close there. And Rick didn't start out his working life making wheels. We hit it off with each other fairly well because we were both Iowa farm boys at one point in our lives. And I discovered when Rick told me what he had done before he started wheels, he worked at the Oliver Tractor manufacturing facility. And he said, my job was to make brake parts and assemble them for the Model 88 Oliver Tractor. And my mouth fell open because I grew up driving one of those at home. So after that, there was no holds barred. We could not talk to each other about anything.
Well, and the other thing is, Rick and Marge were fun.
Oh.
They were, Midwestern party animals.
They were.
That's not a...
That's not an oxymoron. It's not an oxymoron.
Sort of is. No, they were just great people. They were funny and fun-loving.
Mm-hmm. You could always spot Rick in a crowd if you just looked at people's feet, because he might be the only one in the room that had pointed-toe cowboy shoes on.
Well, and you could look at his head too, because it was about a foot over.
A foot over everybody else. He was kind
right.
of
He was a tall drink of water, they say.
Yes, he was. It's not a fair description, but I've described him as an Iowa Ichabod Crane.
Yeah. Oh, that's not bad. Except he kept his head on.
Mm-hmm. We have some fun stories. Susan and I and other vendors at some of the consumer shows, we'd go out to eat together. And we had one table, there were 8 or 10 of us in Minneapolis, I think. Schacht was Barry Schacht and Jane Patrick were there, and Steve Denkin, formerly of Unicorn Books, and some other folks, and us, and Rick and Marge were there. And the waiter was coming around the table asking what each of us wanted to eat. And he'd get around, and somebody ordered a salad, and somebody ordered some fish, because we were in Minnesota, they have fish up there. And got around to Rick. "Oh, hell, I just want a greasy hamburger." And the waiter, of course, didn't know what to do with that, but said, "Okay, our hamburgers aren't greasy." And Rick was, "Oh, that's too bad."
Yeah, that is so typical.
Yeah, that was a Rick story,
I think.
He was
a hoot. That's a great Rick story. Yeah. Now, if you listen closely, I think you can pick it up. There's this little click, click, click.
I hear those clicks.
And you don't, ordinarily that would worry you if you heard a little click, click, click on a wheel. But this is so cool because what you've got on here are these little wooden rings that are on there. How did he do that? You know, just because he could.
He could.
Yeah.
And he did.
And so they click, and it's very cheerful.
And once you get up to a certain treadling speed, just the centrifugal force pushes those rings out, and you won't hear them.
Oh, so it's a test.
It
Let's
is
see
a
if I
test to
can
see,
do it.
yeah, see if you can spin fast enough to.
Hey, I'm there.
There you go.
I'm there.
Noise gone.
Yep. I should get a badge for that.
You
don't
do.
You think?
Pat on the back. How's that today?
That'll do. Yeah.
He only occasionally would do that. It is a lot of work, and there's a lot of manual labor to do that. We had seen that once or twice before. He would occasionally show up at, say, the Maryland Sheep Show with a wheel with the encapsulated rings, but not often, again, because his business was making wheels, and this was just a lot of
6,000 wheels.
6,000 wheels.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tedious work at best. So I don't remember the year, but when he was still in full production, Rick shows up in Kansas for whatever reason, and he had cut his thumb badly enough that he couldn't work. Right-handed thumb, right-handed man, right thumb. Huge bandage on him. He couldn't sit still. He had to work. He taught himself to use the little knife-like hooked tool that it takes to carve the spoke down enough that there's just the ring left. And he taught himself to do that left-handed.
Really?
He did.
Didn't know that.
And he did that on a 24-inch cherry wheel. And Susan does it. He was, I would say, a very modest, quiet man, but still able to talk in public or perform in public. My favorite performance from Rick was at the Maryland Sheep Show. He had two of these 24-inch Saxony wheels, one with the flyer on the left, the other with the flyer on the right. So you could set the other wheel right in front of me. This one's in front of Linda, and the other one is in front of me. We butt the two wheels together so the rims touch.
Oh.
But Linda's not sitting there. Rick is just sitting here where I am, treadling this wheel, but this one will spin because it's against the rim of the other. So he sits there with some wool in his right hand and some wool in his left hand, starts to treadle, and the world stops because everybody's looking at this saying, my gosh, how can you do that? But he did. That was Rick's way of showing off.
that would be a serious show off. That's funny.
Oh, it was.
I had never heard that.
But those of us who were just there with our mouths open didn't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, this is fun. This is a really nice wheel to spin on. I'm really enjoying it. It's mellow and makes a nice, consistent yarn. So, good to see you.
Well, thank you, Linda. It's good to be here. It's good to be in Wisconsin here where it's raining today, and we're glad for that because all of the Midwest is very dry, just like some of our humor.
There you go.